Aloha everybody and welcome to part 9 of Pac-Man World. So, ladies and gentlemen, in part 8, we took on the last two platforming levels of the Funhouse World, and now we're moving on to the boss fight of the Funhouse World, after we talk with Pac-Baby here, who can speak pretty good English. Or Pacese, or whatever the hell the language these people say. I assume it's English, but who knows. This fight is a little bit tricky, and I admit you're probably going to die quite a bit. We clowns will beat you! There's no way you'll win this race! You must finish first to win! Using Turbo will not help! I took care of that myself! And Revolver Ocelot will know if you use Turbo, so don't do it. But ladies and gentlemen, here is the boss fight of the Funhouse World. We are racing all of the different clowns in their bumper cars, and we have to make it to the goal before they do. We have to be in first place, and we will win the level. If we're in second, we're in third, we lose, and that's no good. But the other thing that's kind of a hazard about this level is that sometimes there are walls protecting you from the bottomless pit, and other times there are not. And the controls are a little bit weird in this boss fight. It sort of plays like the regular platforming levels do, in that if you hold up, Pac-Man will drive up. If you hold up left, Pac-Man will drive up left. And if you hold right, Pac-Man will drive right. And you're definitely going to die the first 4 or 5 times, if not more. You'll probably die quite a bit at this boss fight, simply getting used to the control and getting used to how the track twists and turns. I mean, the track is always the same every time you play it, so you'll definitely memorize all the twists and turns the more you die in it and stuff. And you gotta watch out, because like the bumper cars bump you too, and if you go bumping off the edge and fall in the bottomless pit, you have to go all the way back to the start and start from the beginning all over again. I mean, it's not a long track, it's not like a 3-minute gauntlet, you know? It's actually a pretty decent sized track. It's not enough to frustrate anyone, I find. But you're definitely going to have to get used to how the bumper car handles. Like, when you go and make hard turns, you're generally holding left or right, you know? So, like, if it's making you go left, you hold left on the control stick, and you just keep holding it. And the more pack pellets you collect, or power pellets, you push the circle button, and it gives you a burst of speed. And the burst of speed is for, like, when the bumper cars kind of stop you or stunt you, and you just want, like, that instant burst. But again, you need power pellets. If you don't have any, you can't boost. So you gotta watch out for that. You don't have to kill all the clowns. You just have to get up ahead of them. You just have to reach the goal before they do. And then the level will be complete. But it's another one of those boss fights where people see the difficulty and they're like, oh my god, I keep dying here. Just as some people will keep dying on King Galaxian, just as some people will keep dying on Anubis Rex. I actually think the next 2 bosses coming up are actually a lot easier than what we've seen so far. The factory boss, by far, should have been the second boss, quite frankly. But whether the levels needed to be arranged or not, well, we'll decide that later. But anywho, folks, we are now in the 5th of 6 worlds. We are now in the factory world. And as you can guess, the factory world has a whole bunch of construction kind of things. There's a lot of magnet box grabbing things. I know, my names for these enemies is so advanced, right? Magnet box grabby things. But we also have like all these welders, these little fuse kind of robot things that walk back and forth, and depending on where their fuse is located, you can either rev roll into them or butt bounce into them. And you can always throw a pack pellets if that works better for you too. Again, I know pack pellets are useful. I know throwing pack pellets on enemies is a good tip. But for whatever reason, I just never think to do it. So don't do what I do. Do the opposite of what I'm doing. But when it comes to the welders, when it comes to the fuses things, sometimes they're walking with the fuse upright. You can't butt bounce. But you can rev roll into them. And sometimes they'll walk with the fuse down. And then you could butt bounce them. But again, Pac-Man's body is pretty wide and his hitbox is kind of weird, where if you try butt bouncing them, sometimes the fuse still hits you anyway. So it's a little bit tricky, and it's another reason why you should probably just use the pellets in order to throw on them and kill them that way. But, you know, it's really all up to you. In terms of difficulty, I don't find these levels are worse than the Funhouse ones. I actually think, for the most part, they're pretty tame, and there's a lot of swimming in the next two levels, but not this first one. The first level's always the good one. The first level's always just sort of an introduction without being too ridiculous, you know? Got a lot of steam pipes here. The pipes that constantly glow red, well, they'll burn you if you touch them, so don't touch them. They also have steam popping out every now and then, so you gotta time your jumps to dodge all that. And again, it only takes 4 hits to kill you, so I'm not saying this is still an easy level. It's still very easy to run into a pipe because you're too close to the wall, or like, you know, you just mistime your jump, and you don't really have the momentum going when you jump, but I don't think it's all that bad, honestly. And you'll notice I went up here. Well, first there's the amazing butt bounce slam sparkle effect that you only get every once in a while. But I also hit the checkpoint, and you'll notice that once you hit a checkpoint up ahead, if you backtrack and then you die, you'll still go to that checkpoint. So if you don't want to backtrack all the way that you just came, because I had to get the Galaxian icon in order to get to the maze back here. I have to go through all this one more time, and after I get out of the maze, I'm just going to kill myself so I can just immediately go to the checkpoint and save myself some backtracking, you know? It's one of those kinds of games. And there are Pac-Man faces in the steel grating. Does Pac-Man own this factory? I thought it was Ghost Island's factory. I don't know. What is Pac-Man's job anyway? In the beginning of the game, he had a lunchbox, and he was walking from somewhere. What's his job? I don't know what Pac-Man's job is other than taking out ghosts. Oh, by the way, it was confirmed by a fan who had played Pac-Man World 3. He said that they referenced Pac-Man World 1 in Pac-Man World 3, and this is indeed Pac-Man's 20th birthday. He is 20 years old in this particular game, which is crazy because Pac-Man has a wife, he has a baby, he has a kid with Pac Jr., he also has a dog, and he has a job. He's like a regular old family man, you know? He's made it. He's achieved life perfection. I don't assume he has money problems. I don't assume that he has a terrible marriage with Miss Pac-Man. I assume they're happily married, right? And he's only 20 years old! I mean, holy shit! When do Pac people first engage in sexual relations? When do they first engage in marriage? And when do they finish school? Are they just omnipotent when they come out of the womb? Do they even have wombs? Are they carried by a stork to the father and stuff? Did Pac-Man even have sex? Or did a stork bring Pac-Baby and Pac Jr. to Pac-Man like the Mario Brothers were, you know? I know I'm asking too many questions of the Pac-Man universe, but this has to be answered, damn it. This is important, crucial information that just fills my mind. I need to know. I need to know how Pac-Man lore exists. And God knows I'm not going to pay attention to the ghostly adventures, because I don't even know what the hell's going on in that universe. Oh, by the way, I mentioned earlier in like part 3 or so, when I was in the cave levels, that there was an Xbox Live sale for Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures. And so I bought it. And it was like $5, and I figured, why not? You know, I'm playing a Pac-Man World game. What perfect timing after Smash Brothers, and since I'm doing this playthrough, it would be nice to know what Ghostly Adventures was like. And it's average. I certainly don't think it's better than Pac-Man World. I certainly think Pac-Man World 2 is a better game than Ghostly Adventures, and I haven't played Pac-Man World 3, but Ghostly Adventures is just average, you know. It was incredibly easy to play. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I didn't know why Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde were friends with Pac-Man. I didn't know who the hell Betrayus was, and when I actually saw Betrayus, I thought he was like some underling. I was expecting some gigantic ghost who was like the size of Spooky from Pac-Man World 2, but then he's just like this tiny Dr. Wily-looking ghost. And I was like, what the I don't know where they live, I don't know who Pac-Man's school friends are, I don't know what city he lives in. Actually, I think it was called Pacopolis or whatever, but Like, you know, people say, like, Sonic Boom, Rise of Lyric didn't explain anything. You know, that's just kids' games in general. That's just TV show tie-in games in general. They never explain shit. Like, if you'd ever watched an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants, do you think the SpongeBob SquarePants video game is going to do a good job explaining the rules in the world to you? I don't think so. I do not think so. But I just wanted to say, if you're interested at all in Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures, I found it pretty average, pretty standard, pretty easy, and I blew through it. And it's colorful, it's got nice graphics, pretty forgettable soundtrack. It's just thing. It's a thing, you know. You can play it if you want. I'm never going to come back to it ever again. I wasn't mad at it. I didn't think anything was bullshit about it, except for Pac-Man turns into a boulder every now and then. Because he keeps getting all these different powers that turn him into, like, a chameleon, an ice Pac-Man, a fire Pac-Man, there's a balloon Pac-Man, and, like, magnet Pac-Man and stuff. And, like, there's this one time you turn into a boulder, and then you're just running around a world as a boulder. Sort of like the snowball level in Sonic Lost World, except a lot more of it, and a little bit more awkward, I should say. Like, I didn't have a problem with the snowball in Lost World. I did have problems with the rock in Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures, but you don't care. You're never gonna play it. Maybe someone in my audience has played it, but I'm not coming back to it. The final boss was so piss easy, too. I couldn't believe it. You do, like, 3 things, and then it just ends. And then it just cuts to credits. I was like, well, first they go back to the school and they say, yeah, good job, Pac-Man, and then cut to credits. I was like, what the hell kind of an ending was that? But, yeah, that was Ghostly Adventures. I have far too much time on my hands. I could have been doing anything, and I chose to play Ghostly Adventures. But I digress. So that was the first Factory World, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're coming up to the bonus level of the Factory World. And I've never 100% completed this level because there are fruit above where the magnet guys, where you have to stand on the magnet guys, and there's fruit below where you're walking on the ground. And there just doesn't seem to be enough time. I can't seem to get the pattern down. I don't know if I have to jump on the magnet robots at a certain moment so I can just breeze through this, like maybe at the start. But, like, I just cannot figure this out. I don't even know what the switches do. I really don't. I don't know what the switches do. You butt bounce the switches, and they're just there, and I don't get it. But it's just a bonus room. You get fruit, and then you get lives for getting that fruit. And there's really not much more to say to it, so, you know. I don't 100% complete it, but it's a thing. Jump on the magnet robots. Get the fruit. That's all you need to know. Anyway, folks, we shall see more of the Factory World in Part 10. So, see you then.